Today we're going to learn how to evaluate logarithms, both with a calculator and without a calculator. Both skills are necessary in order to be able to solve equations and graph later on. The first thing we're going to do is learn how to do this without using a calculator, because the basis of that will help us as we start to solve exponential and logarithmic equations and switching forms between the two. So if I take a look at this first one here, the log base 2 of 32 is how we read that. What I want to do is rewrite this in a different form. I want to rewrite this as 2 raised to some unknown power is equal to 32, because that's really what that logarithm is asking. The base of 2, that little number next to the log, being raised to some exponent is equal to 32. So if I look at that, we can solve that just either by trial and error. There's several ways you could do that, but you could even just start plugging in numbers into your calculator. 2 to the first doesn't work, 2 to the second doesn't work, and keep going until we figure out that 2 raised to the 5th power is equal to 32. So with that, we could then say that this logarithm up here equals 5 because of this 5th power right here. If I look at the second one, I could do a similar thing and say 1/3 raised to what power is equal to 81. So fractions are a little bit different because we need to get rid of the fraction in order to make this work. So if I look at that, one way we can do it is like what we were doing last time. We could either flip this over and try to match bases, or I can start plugging in numbers for that exponent to match these up. Now, recognizing that to go from a fraction to a whole number, we need a negative exponent. And 3 raised to the 4th power gives us 81. So I can then say 1/3 raised to the negative 4th equals 81. So then my answer for this would be -4 because of that exponent right there, the -4. And finally, for this last one, the log base 6 of 1/216, I can do a similar thing to what I've been doing on these last ones. 6 raised to some unknown power is equal to 1/216. Well, in order to do that, I need to create a fraction again, similar to what we were doing on that last one, converting the fraction to the whole number. So to get from 6 to 216 with an exponent, I can say 6 raised to the 3rd. But to get that fraction, I need to throw in a negative to go from that whole number to a fraction of 216. So that answer to the logarithm up here would be -3, because 6 to the -3rd equals 1/216. Now, knowing how to do that without a calculator is very nice, but we need to be able to do it with a calculator as well, because there's going to be times where it isn't an integer for the answer. So if I go back to this first example, the log base 2 of 32, another way I could do this is take the log of 32 and divide it by the log of 2. And when I type that into my calculator, there's log buttons on your calculator that you can use. When I type that into the calculator, I'm going to end up getting 5 as my answer. I could do a similar thing on this next one. I can say the log of 81 divided by the log of 1/3. And when I type that into the calculator, I'm going to get a -4. And this last one, if I were to take the log of 1/216 and divide that by the log of 6, I would end up getting -3. So both of these methods are very helpful in solving these log expressions. The first method will work if it's an integer power, and the second method is going to work all the time, but we can use it for integers, but we will use that mostly when we want to find decimal values and don't know what power of the base that expression is.